between these two teams. What does Dignitas have to do now to kind of like reignite that spark?
I mean, this is one of the best maps for Dignitas. It's also one where they feel the most confident, especially if you talk to Mene. He loves the map. He says they have a fantastic record here, and that holds true so far in HGC. Coordination-wise, I would like them to step their game up a little bit, but as fans said, you can't really blame them for the last game. It's just that eStar showed up completely differently. I think that in the drafting, I would shut down Greymane, I have to say.
Right.
We know that Xingzi is fantastic on the hero. The team likes to play that style. They've been talking about how the new Tassadar, how Uther, how all of these heroes complement what they are strong with. I would target that and take it away from them.
Makes sense, makes sense. I mean, if you do have a nickname based after a hero, maybe it's a good idea to deal with that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, historically, they've been afraid of Zeratul, so it's an understandable first ban. China's always brought a really powerful Zeratul, but you gotta adapt, right?
Make sure to join in with the discussion as well as who you think is going to win, of course, in the chat with the hashtags either Dignitas or eStar. So far, eStar doing good. Doing good here, very much so. And we're going into the draft in just a few moments' time here. That was very few moments. Yeah. That was impressive.
That's a good thing about moments, isn't it? It's a nondescript period of time.
Precisely.
It's not like percentages where there's really only one way to discuss them.
That's why I'm a good host.
I wanted to say one thing. eStar, seeing them with the performance on last one makes me very, very happy. Yeah. Because when we were coming into the tournament, we've been talking a lot about teams that had problems, where there were switches with heroes, where they didn't have a lot of time to prepare. And for a long time, it really looked like we had a very dominant field up at the top, consisting of maybe 4 teams, and that we weren't quite sure, okay, how far off is the rest? And seeing eStar heading into the tournament with a victory and a very well-performed victory over Dignitas makes me really happy, because this tournament is shaping up to be one of the most competitive international tournaments that we had so far in Heroes of the Storm.
It's not only a case of, I think we're going to see it evolve from groups to playoffs. We're going to see it evolve from day to day to day in groups, based on the teams going home. What have we seen today? What can we incorporate? What can we exploit? What can we use? I think it's going to be fantastic.
Exactly, and the best of 2 format really caters towards that as well, because now we're in a situation where, as we said before, you can't just simply drop a map, adapt, and then win 2 in a row. You have to make sure that you win every single map if you want to have the best standing. And talking about adapting, we're already seeing this happen. I mean, Robbie, you talked earlier about how you really liked that Uther as a first pick, and now we are seeing this on the side of eStar compared to Dignitas. So Uther really rising in the ranks, and Dignitas, they had to react to that, and they take Genji away because they don't want to face Dragonflight with the Divine Shield, and they, again, fall back into that bakery, what hero would you like to have?
Yes,
and they give him Malfurion.
But where eStar fastidiously avoided going for any stunts, roots, and silences against Uther, Dignitas doesn't want to do the same. They've gone with Malf. I don't think he's just going to say, I'll never use my roots. That's going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, Dignitas looks like they're still playing just to their style. If you've seen their games in the playoffs for Europe, this is very much what they do on Dragon Shire. They love having the Malfurion, Genji, sometimes a new bracket if it's not banned, and usually they round it out with like a Greymane or a Tychus. They like controlling the bottom 4-man, having a really strong 4-man with a Malfurion. So I would expect some of those picks there, but at the same time, the other side has Uther, Vala, Oreo, and the other hero that Xingzi is really well known for in China is actually Vala. So those are his 2 bread and butter heroes.
And that's exactly what we talked about going into the first game, that it is a threat that they are playing this hyper carry Vala style. So they are moving away from him on the strong Greymane, but they're falling back into this, okay, Vala with a double support. And this is exactly what the Asian region is known for, in China in particular. So this is what I mentioned earlier, that Dignitas is very likely to let it go through because they're saying, we can deal with this, but now they have to prove it.
So the Chromie ban by eStar, it shows they've done their homework. And why would you not against a team that has thrown shade over you on Twitter?
We are going to get you.
And the thing is, when they said that, even though we needed a translator to understand them, we saw them bristle with energy and like a sensation of revenge. So we know that those feelings are real and vivid.
They woke the dragon.
They woke the dragon.
Yeah, they definitely did. The one thing that's interesting here is that Dahaka Muradin, it feels like for Team Dignitas, is their almost new school Arthas Muradin, but it's just gives them more opportunity to control the map, right? It is Dragon Shire, have that Brush Stalker available to you to be able to just have a strong front line, but also have that global.
Yeah.
Mene's pick has yet to be decided. Which mage is Mene going to be picking? Is it going to be Zagara or traditional damage mage? In the meantime, eStar, they get their Tyrael again.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be a mage, though, for him nowadays.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's been doing some Grey Mane, some Zagara.
Grey Mane exists.
Grey. You shave Grey Mane, it's last Mene. There you go.
Exactly. It's not really a well-known fact, but it's a fact.
There you go. There you go. All right. What are we realistically thinking here?
I had to guess, I would probably say either the Greymane or the Kel'Thas.
Yeah.
Those are two heroes that are really likely for Mene. I like the Tychus in this position as well, but I don't think Mene plays that hero that much, so I'm leaning towards Greymane or Kel'Thas here. It looks like Dignitas has not gone with the avoid stuns or roots plan, so... Oh, actually, Li Ming is another good one that I completely forgot about. That's actually pretty good as well. I think they're going to have a hard time with this draft beating them in a 5 versus 5, so I think they're going to try and outmaneuver them, try and win early game. Dignitas, because Guardian of Ancient Kings plus Oriel is really strong 5 versus 5 into mass CC.
Also, with the double support, you're going to have a rough time really getting the kills and resets for Li Ming, which is another problem. It makes it harder to really get that snowball effect that you want to have with her.
Yeah, the pressure is on Dignitas here to get a lead and keep it. I think that's their best win condition. They do have the stronger early game. They have the global and the Dahaka. But if they can't do that, they could be in trouble.
Fan, what do you think about the laning setup? Like Uther, Vala, Ariel, they're going to be in bot lane, right? Applying pressure. How do you deal with that as Dignitas with the draft that you have?
Well, you do have the stronger 4-man on the bottom side, so you should be able to handle it okay. And you have the Dahaka on top side. You just call for the burrow. You can make a 5 versus 4, 5 versus 3 if you're winning mid. So that's probably how they're going to try and make it work.
All right.
So what do we think about the hopes here for Dignitas looking at the drafts? Do they stack up better this game compared to our previous? Considering what happened, of course, not exactly the drafts in the first one.
I still like that draft, and the only concern that I have a bit is that when I looked at the last draft, them going into the Carrigan really showed the confidence they have that they, on the individual level, can take it to eStar and take them down here. So I think this definitely was a bit of a blow against the self-esteem here. But overall, they have a lot of comfort picks and picks that they're really happy with. The Muradin on JPL, we have Mane on his Li Ming, we have Malfurion. So I like the picks for them. I think they're very happy with the draft that they have. But we saw in the last game how strong eStar is here, so I think this is going to be a really close one.
And to follow up, predictions, Kaldor?
After the last game, I'm a bit afraid for them. I think eStar is quite strong, but my heart says Europe, so I say Dignitas, I believe.
Okay. Grubby?
This time, I once again think that the drafts are very similar, but this time eStar doesn't have D.Va, so there might be just a way. I'm going to go with Dignitas.
That's my boy, that's my boy.
But only because I'm sitting next to Calder.
He'll get you as well. Ben?
Honestly, my brain still tells me Dignitas for this game, but you know, my heart was right last game, and I was impressed listening to eStar's comms the last game. It sounded like they were really, they knew exactly what was going to happen. Every team fight, super controlled. It was like 5 Glaurons talking all together. I was really impressed, so I'm going to go with eStar again.
Said.
I tried to bribe him with the title of an honorary European, but apparently that's not enough these days.
And I was about to say he has the bilingual advantage, but then all of you have bilingual advantage, and I'm just an English speaker, so I'm not going there, not at all. We are 50-50 on the predictions.
Wow.
This is the first 50-50 of the day. That's impressive.
It's very understandable, though, after the last game.
Yes.
I'm really impressed by eStar. I think this is going to be a great game that we're seeing now.
Yeah, definitely. And it will be our last game of the day. Thank you very much, gentlemen, as we are almost ready to go into game number 2 here between Dignitas and eStar. Let's head over to Gilly and Jayhow.
Jayhow, the predictions were 50-50. The last game was awesome to cast. I can't wait for this next one. What do you think of the drafts?
I like eStar a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. Dignitas' draft scares me right now.
Well, I'm pumped because, again, we get Lucian Ontario. But before we get to that point, Team Dignitas in the blue, Bakery playing Malfurion, Snitch on Genji, Xaylia playing Dahaka, Muradin played by JPL, and Mene playing his Li Ming.
And on the right side for eStar, that is going to be SW on the Uther, while Zing C, we're going to see if he can continue to impress on Vala, Tiger on Oriole, H on Leoric, and X on Tyrael.
Zing C's Vala has been praised for a long, long time, and statistically he is flat out one of the best Valas in the world, if not the best. There's a lot of good Valas, but man, Zing C's Vala is so impressive. It is a treat to get to cast it, it's a treat to watch it. Detainment Strike hits JPL, lots of damage on Snitch and JPL, but no kill, no first blood just yet.
You know you didn't do too bad when you make somebody Hearth in 16 seconds. Not too bad there.
That's a good point.
You know, one of the more interesting things is that this is a double support comp that we don't see a lot of run outside of China with this type of setup. If you're going to do a double support, it works really well, obviously, with Uther. But on this battleground, they'll have Leoric to defend the solo lane. But outside of that, they lean heavily on Zing C, which you were just talking about on his Vala.
Yeah, it's funny when we talked to them and they said, oh, we feel confident because we have the Greymane Master in Zing C, but it's true for his Vala too. And putting a lot in the Zing C basket, definitely, but it's a strategy that eStar feels very comfortable in doing. They have their double support for them, double full support too with Uther and Ariel. Seeing the rotations?
I really wonder where Dignitas is going to find their advantage, right? Obviously, Genji can move around. He's got great mobility to get between lanes. But taking down Leoric is no easy task. You know, obviously, if you can get Dahaka and him on there, maybe. But this four-man push at the bottom with double support is going to be so hard to press into. I really wonder what Dignitas' strength is, and I think it is going to be that Genji rotating between mid and top.
Yeah, trying to maybe potentially get a pick on eStar's Leo at the top, maybe, as a possibility, but it is a tall order, especially because he always has Wraithwalk there. Not sure what he's going to get at 4. It's generally fealty unto death with that block to try to just make sure that he's a solo lane machine. He continues to keep healing up health and mana as minions next to him die. Both of the shrines being controlled by eStar so far forces Team Dignitas into the mid. Hammer of Justice hits, JPL is forced back, but Snitch still is a great guard to have over that Dragon Knight point.
Yeah, I mean, you've got that good range, you've got good poke with your Q there, and you've got the mobility to get away if things get a little bit dicey. So you do have that option too, like you just said. He is going to be sniffed out, dive over, ignore some of that damage. Dignitas in control of both shrines momentarily, but going to be very difficult to try and cap here.
Yeah, that was a really well done by Dignitas. It's a sort of seesaw effect. They know that both shrines are controlled by eStar, and they're going to want to get aggressive, trying to potentially get that Dragon Knight. And once they see the rotation of the bottom lane go up, they have Genji there as the safest sort of guard on duty. And then meanwhile, in the other lanes, that frees up a lot of the pressure for Team Dignitas to get shrines. So we'll continue to see that back and forth, but I really love what Dignitas are doing with Genji specifically here on Dragon Shire as that guard in the mid.
Yeah, JPL has just kind of played this anchor, try to look for rotations, get a little bit of disruption, see if they can thwart the rotation up. But with double support, especially with Ariel, you're not getting much value. The only thing he's really doing there is stacking up his level 1 talent, because he did go a Perfect Storm. You know, it's permanent damage every time you land that on a hero. So but what are you really doing with it right now?
Building up those stacks as best as he can. I saw him do that on Battlefield of Eternity too, right? Just sits in the mid and he hits them very consistently. JPL is such a good, consistent warrior for Team Dignitas. Being able to hit those, and later on, he'll be able to contribute a lot to the damage, trying to be able to bust someone down, burst them down, even though eStar have that double warrior setup and double tank, because otherwise it could be quite difficult.
You know, speaking of questing talents, level 4 obviously for Genji is going to be a primary focus. Once he hits 35, he gets the increased damage. Once he hits 75, then he gets that extra reset when he uses his trait, his D. So we'll see if that's just their focus right now. It just seems like they're stacking talents, but they're not forcing anything anywhere on the map. They haven't forced Genji top. They haven't forced him bottom. Like, they're just kind of passively letting eStar do a few small things and not much else.
eStar are doing things, but the one thing they're not doing is getting a Dragon Knight.
But this damage right here, not only did they eat basically all of the ammo, now they're pressing in, taking the fort wall. And this is going to add up over time. The experience obviously is pretty even, but look at Zing C. He's just walking up there, and he's not being punished.
It's hard to punish that when he has the double support there. Hope must be used. Drag and Brushstock were there. Xaylia now using the drag, doesn't connect. Xingxi staying alive with the double support. There's the Perfect Storm Stormbolt doing a lot of damage after a lot of the tools were used, but still Xingxi lives on.
Having Ariel there, just, look, I trust in my double support that I'm going to walk past
into maybe the worst place with the wall, but yeah, it worked. Drag this time may not be there though. Savage tries to come in and help out. Oh, it is Savage this time. Lucian playing Leo.
His E is down, the stun is there, and that is going to be one dead Genji, and that is first blood, which is also going to lead to first Dragon Knight.
First Dragon Knight picked up by Savage. eStar Gaming trying to get their heroic abilities now too. But as best they can, make the siege start. Take out towers. Try to make it so that the rotations for Dignitas to Shrines aren't as easy. Take out this bottom fort possibly too. That's a great starting point for them to get into a good setup for a keep later on with future Dragon Knights. Just get ahead and experience. eStar are already a level ahead with Team Dignitas. Only at 9, not having 10s, there's not too much they could really do to defend here.
As we can see, Snitch lighting up in blue. He did complete the first part of his Shuriken quest at level 4, so he'll have some bonus damage. But Gilly, you talked about opening up this bottom lane. They're now pushing in on Keep Wall. Just taking out a tower is considered a success at this point. They are stretching this lead beyond 1 level now.
That is solely because they got that heroic abilities early on. And again, that goes back to the point that you made, where eStar was so good in understanding exactly how much pressure they could put on that they took down that front wall and got the extra experience. Lucian has follow through this time, or Savage, I keep messing them up, but either way, Tyrael has his follow through. Does he take Judgment here? He may have to take Sanctification. Nope, there it is.
He is. They're going to see if he can try and dive. He goes instantly in, but we see the wave of force knocking the back. Bakery, however, is very low on the front side. Uther is the first to fall, but he's got the heals and he's got the armor from that ghost form.
Twilight Dream immediately to follow up and take out Uther. Entomb catches Xaylia, but Burrow to dodge, drain Hope. Even still, there are so many members of eStar here. They claim another life.
And Bakery starting to walk away. He just couldn't push up. He had no mana. His health was extremely low. He tried to make a play. They got the early pick, but nice follow-up. eStar not willing to retreat in the middle of that because they had that extra support and the aggression from Xingxi to fill up that Hope. So what looked like a losing fight for eStar ends up working out in the end.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to that strafe, too. The coordination between Ariel and Vala there to make sure that they had it. Good communication. Fan talked about it. He was impressed with the comms of eStar, and they are fully on board, believing in each other, having good communication here. And they're doing the same thing they did in game number 1 on Infernal Shrines, and that is just keep the pressure mounting on Team Dignitas. They have taken out both of the giant camps in the bottom, forcing response there. They get their bruisers, and this is setting up for them to have a lead in the lanes as we get ready for the next Dragon Knight phase.
I like the fact that eStar is like, look, we've got enough double support between our support, and we know that we're going to fill this Hope Bar. The fact that they go Judgment and Divine Storm means that they understand that they're lacking a little bit of damage, but they're not hesitant to be a little bit risky because they trust in what they are putting out there. The team, the shielding, the heals, I mean, everything. I love what eStar is doing with this composition.
Yeah, you definitely have to do that when you have this double support, is try to figure out where you can get your damage in elsewhere. We have Sacred Sweep build for Ariel that'll help a little bit, but the big deal is that they do have Divine Storm. And Well Met now being added to Uther's repertoire to reduce the damage on the other side for Team Dignitas. And as well to slow. If Genji goes in the wrong way at the wrong time, they'll be able to get a kill, or a Dahaka.
Dahaka's not a bad thing there. And this is actually something that Dread tweeted about a week or two ago about top lane. And bottom lane is the primary focus on this battleground for a wide variety of reasons. 3 camps at the bottom. But top lane, once you get past this 10, 12, 13 stage, is that taking that top lane holds so much value. And it's really too much to get into. But I like the fact that eStar recognized that and took that. And I really wish we could just sit around for like 30 minutes and talk about why that one thing is so important. But they did it, and that's the main thing. Yeah,
it gives them even more control and continues to stifle and give Team Dignitas fewer and fewer options. They're running out of options, and eStar has shown in this game and the last one that they're a team that's able to do that. Now taking out the final fort of Team Dignitas before Dig gets their 13, Hammer of Justice. Snitch is there with Swift Strike. Lots of mobility to escape.
Lots of mobility to get out of there, but you got to start wondering when they can start forcing the advantage. You know, when we saw the Li Ming pick up at the end, you kind of wondered how that would work into this double support comp and into a Tyrael who has that built-in spell arm.
Well, now that 13 is here, things change for this potential judgment. Crystal Aegis has been used, but there's an ice block, so the target may not necessarily be Bakery anymore. And in fact, he used Judgment on Li Ming in the back. Hammer of Justice, Snitch in trouble, has to use every mobility just to get away. This is a separation of Team Dignitas. Bakery is caught with the Entomb. Nice dodge on the Detainment Strike, but it won't be long enough to save Malfurion's life. eStar continuing to rack up the kills.
I don't know if we're going to get a replay on that one, but the Crystal Aegis first on the side of eStar to protect Vala from the Twilight Dream. And then the cleanse on the other side by Bakery on the Judgment. They're so well timed. We are seeing top tier support play from both these teams.
Yeah, that cleanse was amazing. And that's the issue with picking Judgment into a Malfurion is for a little bit of time, that 3 levels between 10 and 13, you can hope to use it on Malfurion. But once he gets Ice Block, then you have to hope that you could force the Ice Block first, potentially, with Entomb. We saw it used there, so maybe they'll try to change things up, Entomb him first, then Judgment in the follow-up, too. He's even taken his Angelic Might to fully just give him a lot of damage with his auto attacks. After he hits a hero with Smite, it increases his basic attack damage each time for each hero he hits, so he really could be chunking people down as that secondary warrior. But again, with a double support, double warrior, supplementing, changing up the build for damage.
For so long between BlizzCon and things like that is that everybody kept saying eStar, 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 and then eStar would underperform. But they've stepped here in day number 1 and are looking like just true threats. And Dignitas right now finding themselves 2 levels down. Shrine's active again. Bottom keep already down. Dignitas is in a deep, deep hole, and they've got to find a way out right now.
eStar are definitely a pleasant surprise. That is for sure. Team Dignitas, I've said it last game and I'll say it again. They have such an ability to come back in games. All they need is one mistake, one small mistake from another team to capitalize, and they can shift the momentum completely into their favor.
Well, we're going to see the camps being picked up here to try and get that battleground control for both these teams, but the Knights and the Catapults are definitely going to have to be responded to. It's early enough, 12 minutes in, that a DK doesn't end the game right now. So it's not that threatening, but you're going to continue to give up structures, and then your window of opportunities are going to get much smaller. Wraith walking away, not too bad.
Not too shabby. A hopeful pick for Team Dignitas to get 16 and deny this Dragon Knight, but nobody in position. Again, the lanes are so in favor of eStar, and that goes back to the top lane, right? Being able to take out that fort, getting the bruisers there too. eStar even starting the bruisers on Dig's side of the battleground to get that push even stronger. And this is interesting. This is not something we see very often, and that's threatening the top keep on Dragon Shire, and that's because this bridge we call the Death Bridge.
Yeah, it's going to be hard-pressed. The good thing for Dignitas is they're 16, so if eStar continues to remain aggressive after this clears out, then it's very difficult to deal with. But look at the shielding, look at the amount of minions in that Night Camp. It is a swarm. I feel like this is more StarCraft right now, the Zerg wave on Braxis maybe.
Yeah, it is very tempting with that giant push of eStar to be able to push along with the Dragon Knight to that top lane. And because they have things like Holy Ground, Divine Storm, if they need to run away back up there, isn't the worst thing. Although they use Divine Storm, many teleports to the safety of the keep.
The Dragon Knight continuing to go on this. The shields are now down. They're starting to put damage onto the core. They're starting to get there, and it looks like they're going to pull this off as the stuns go down. 60%, and it is falling, but they're starting to retreat ever so slowly. 50%, Gilly.
A lot of abilities have been used, but Bakery is low and in a rough position. Will have Twilight Dream in just a couple of seconds, but it's too late. He's taken out. Uther is down too, but he's there for the heals as always. eStar takes out the core, takes the series 2-0.
In impressive fashion, eStar just dominated both games. I don't think we expected this high level of play from eStar against a strong Dignitas roster here in day 1. It's only day 1, but if you're looking to make a statement, you come in and you perform this way, I'd be pretty happy.
A lot of people questioned China's ability to succeed here at the Mid-Season Brawl. largely because the #1 team in the region, CE, weren't able to attend. SPT came in and said SPT did lose, but eStar is showing that they can represent, they can do well. They took out Team Dignitas, a favorite here, a strong team, a team to do well here, 2-0.
All smiles after game 1 and more smiles after game 2 there for eStar. Just impressive fashion. I mean, you could break down the small things that they did. We saw the big things that they did, which were really well. But even the small things that they did, I mean, we talked about the top lane pressure. Every little thing that they did just amassed this 2-level lead, this battleground control, and Dignitas had 0 answers.
You know who I bet can break down the small things well for us? Our analyst panel. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Keely. Very kind of her to say, because I'm rubbish at it. But overall, what we're going to see is eStar kind of dispelling a lot of the question marks that are around them coming into at least the first day, taking a very strong victory there over Dignitas 2-0. That on Dragon Shire. Again, a very strong showing.
Yeah, I have to say, of course, I was hoping for a strong European performance here. No doubt about it, but I'm super impressed with eStar, and I'm really happy. Every team that we asked, what do you think, who's going to make it out of the group? And all the answers we got was the top 2 is going to be Dignitas and a Korean team, and then we're going to see the Chinese, depending on how strong they really are. And now all of a sudden we're in for a super intense group where anything can happen, and I'm very, very happy with that.
Already potential shake-up after day 1. Grubby, your thoughts?
Yeah, the second biggest upset of the day after Roll20 took a map from MVP Black. And this is an upset in the 2-0 shape, where I really didn't think eStar was going to be able to do it. They looked very sloppy on their last many performances, and here they just looked so on point. They had the intense team fighting win in game 1, and here only 4-1 takedowns. Why? Because they controlled the entire map. They kept channeling those lasers, getting the Dragon Eyes. They look very good. Love that performance, very clean, and very looking forward to seeing what eStar Gaming is going to be bringing out in the following games.
You made a good point of the fact that it's an upset, but of the 2-0 variety, and thus the 3 points far more valuable than the 1 point actually moving forward.
It's so much better to go 2-0, 0-2 and get 3 points. If you do 2 draws, same map wins, same map losses, but you only get 2 points. Yeah. Big deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Fan, well, yeah, you do have a little bit of a clip to show us as to what happened.
Yeah, I got a replay here to show us. And if we could just pause right when Mouth gets judgmented, keep playing for a little bit here. I just want to talk about 2 things. The individual skill of both teams, as well as the kind of how this fight went down. So pause right here. You can see right here, Mene on the Li Ming gets that wave of force, and this is what saved them in this fight. You can see that the Tyrael did judgment the Malfurion, and the Uther was really close to getting his chain CC off on the Malfurion. The fact that that wave of force on top of the Malfurion pushed the Uther away completely saved Bakery. Bakery follows up with a Twilight Dream, and you can see Xingxi is actually on the top side here. He was actually Aegis and in a bad position. So the fight starts off really well for Dig, but even after, even after eStar loses 1 member here, they continue to fight. They know they can still take this fight. They have the Vala Oriole. Both are healthy. That means that they can keep pushing damage, keep healing. So even though it's a 4 versus 5 fight, you can see Dig is on the retreat with all their heroes really low, and they're split up. But eStar keeps fighting. They get the Entomb on Xaylia. Xaylia cannot get out here, and he does go down right here, ending up in a 4 versus 4. And the most important thing to remember is that, that was a really good fight for Dig. You had that amazing wave of force. You also had Vala kind of wrapped up in the Oriole ulti on top side. So even with all of that, eStar managed to make it a 1-for-1 at the end.
Well, we are indeed joined by Xingxi as well as our Chinese translator. Hello. Starting things off, Xingxi, you mentioned to us that after you saw Bakery's tweet, you wanted to be able to defeat them and just be able to take the 3-0. Are you satisfied with how the series went, and did you expect it to go this way?
首先恭喜你打败了Team DIG。那记得昨天嘛，我们有读了2个信息，然后其中一个信息是 Bakery 从这个队伍说的，他讲在小组赛能够打倒你是他的荣幸嘛，但是他根本没有办到。那你对你自己的表现满意吗？现在？
挺满意的吧，就因为我们今天没有想到我们能赢，因为我们就想着打自己的嘛。 然后第一盘赢了之后，我们给自己今天定的目标就是赢他1个小分就行了，就没有想2比0。然后第2盘的时候，当时我们在考虑要不要选维拉的问题，然后我就跟我的，因为他们训练赛的时候有点被打崩了，用了维拉，然后我就给他们鼓气，说要选维拉，然后我觉得今天还挺好的，因为大家都信任我那一瞬间。
So after the first game, after we won, I was already pretty satisfied with the result because we just aimed to take one match of Dignitas. But for the second match, during the drafting phase, I was actually having a very strong feeling to pick Vala. But my teammates thought, we didn't do so well in the scrims with using Vala. So there was a bit of hesitation. But in the end, everyone trusted me and we picked Vala and we succeeded.
Good stuff. Fan, do you have a few questions?
Yeah, so when I talked to Xingxi earlier before the tournament, he himself said that they weren't that confident about how they were going to place. They were just going to play their best. So now after 2-0ing Dignitas, one of the teams that was going to be either first or second in the group predicted, how does he feel about how well they can do now?
那你没有对打 Team DIG 的时候，你是觉得他们是蛮强的，你们只是没有那么信心饱满去打。可是打完了2比0嘛，你觉得你们的比率在这个小组赛会怎样呢？
我们在小组赛的形势吗？还是不能小看任何一支队伍吧，因为我们可以说是超常发挥吧，因为就我个人而言，我是在比赛的时候我就比平时的状态要好出太多了，因为我只要进了比赛，我就会进入一种亢奋的状态。然后我的队友他们也有这方面的原因吧，平时训练赛的时候不是感觉不到那种感觉。
I think we will do pretty okay, but we don't want to underestimate the rest of the group as well. So I hope we will do our best. But I feel like playing on LAN really brings out my performance. I'm on like a serious mode when I play on LAN, and it's the same applies to my teammates as well. And it doesn't show as much in our scrims. So I hope we can do well.
Yeah, I was also going to ask. I was, sitting near the stage at one point, and I heard some of their comms, and it sounded like they were very clear. Everyone was talking. Everyone was very loud and very hyped. Could you ask about how they do their communication? And, it just sounded very clean to me, very impressive.
他说他有偷听你们在交流，就在打团战还是在打游戏的时候的交流。那你们的交流是怎样的呢？是谁比较会说一点，还是谁比较兴奋的吗？可以说一下。
打团的时候，通常我比较兴奋一点。就打比赛的时候，我会就看得更多，然后那种感觉就是就能看到全场那种有谁可以杀的机会吧。就我会各种告诉他们，然后还有就是 H 也会这么做，然后还有770他那个会告诉我们撤退。就我主要还是告诉大家进攻。
I think I am more observant when I'm on the LAN, so I can look at the game from a more macro point of view. And I know when it's a good time to attack the enemy and which heroes to pick up first. So usually I'm more excited at making these calls to go in, but then my teammates will be the one to tell me, okay, now it's the time to retreat.
Okay. My final question is that they're the second team this tournament to show D.Va. Do they think that throughout as the tournament goes on, D.Va's going to rise in popularity amongst some of the other teams?
那你觉得 D.Va 这个英雄会多选吗？就在这个比赛。
可能会上场吧，就有机会上场，但是还是因为大家这个英雄才出没多久嘛，然后可能还不太熟悉吧。我们平时训练赛没有用过 D.Va， 连1场都没用过。然后今天选出来也只是根据当时的特定情况才选，就我们的 BP 那个 H 说，D.Va 可以，然后我们就上 D.Va。
There's definitely a possibility that D.Va is going to appear more in this tournament, but we're actually not very familiar with this hero. We actually have never scrimmed using D.Va. This was our first time using the hero itself. And it was only because H, our player, he said, D.Va is good here. And so we just went ahead with the pick.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Xingxi. And of course, that does it. Thank you very much, as we're going to check in with the groups to see how things have gone on throughout the day. Of course, we did have Group A starting things off with a 2-0, a 2-0, and we had a 1-1. And you can see kind of exactly where those have panned out and where people have placed themselves. And then over to Group B as well. Across the board, 2 0s, sweeps. Of course, some of those matches were very close. We're joined once again